Alright, hello again. Thanks for stopping in. Today's footage is of a little bit of the trailer frame prepping, and then a little bit of, it started to rain, so I kind of had to call that a early day, and then decided that I would take the backhoe and start digging the trench for the water line. So I've got a wire cup brush on the grinder at the moment, and I'm just trying to get all the rust cleaned off of anywhere that the deck boards go, so I can make sure that all of the metal is still sound and that there's not going to be any problems, since it is old and was pretty rusted, pretty rotted and whatnot. All in all, the frame actually turned out extremely well. I was pretty pleased with the fact that that all the issue I had was basically just surface rust. So I'm not worried that this will be a challenge down the road at all. The biggest challenge I faced with this was the threat of rain, and there were some spots where there was actual bare metal that I'd ground down, so I had to try and get those covered with paint before the rain started to fall, and you'll see here in a minute that that was sort of a successful endeavor. Apparently, if you start to paint with an oil enamel paint and it begins to rain, you get a really interesting texture in the paint. But yeah, it is what it is. There's kind of a part of me that sort of wants to collect all this powdered rust, but I'm glad I have a respirator on, because, not something you want to be breathing at all. It just was the actual reason for barn color. Back in the old day, paint was made from spoiled milk, basically, and one of the coloring options was rust, iron oxide. Because it was readily available, it was easy to make. The barns ended up all being a brownish red rust color, and that became a tradition. So now the most common color for barns is red, out of, is homage the right term? Out of tribute to the old methods back in the old day. You can see in some places there was quite a bit of surface rust, and some of the powder, some of the dust that you're seeing was from the decayed wood that was sitting in there, some dirt, stuff like that. I got pretty much everything wire brushed, so now I'm trying to just do a little bit more cleanup, just trying to get things ready. The goal is to add a bunch of lights. It's got you can see at the back end, it's got this steel cylinder that kind of houses the turn light, and I like that being there. We ended up replacing it with the same style that was in there, but we're going to put LED bulbs in it instead of incandescent bulbs. And then I'm also going to be adding some additional lighting. So one of the requirements that now exists here in Washington, at least, is if the trailer is greater than 7 feet wide, which this one is, then you have to have 3 marking lights in the middle of the rear of the trailer. So I'm going to have to figure out how to get those mounted into the bumper in a way that will allow me to still have the bumper functionality that I want, so I can build a pair of ramps and be able to easily load tractor and, you know, mini excavator and whatever else I end up throwing on it, in addition to the logs and the log arch. So as you saw, I took the broom just to make sure there was no loose dust anywhere, and now I'm just trying to race to get at least a little bit of paint on everywhere that was actually ground and shiny. All in all, I'm pretty pleased with this trailer, actually. I think it'll be a really good log trailer when we get to that point. I do still want to be able to use it as an equipment trailer, obviously, since I'm going to have ramps for it. But the log arch is going to have to be built in such a way that it'll be maneuverable. One of the things that I'll do with it is at the back where the log arch is going to eventually be mounted, I'm going to go ahead and weld in some additional bracing right now so that it's just there, and all I have to do is drill up through the lumber, or potentially place lumber around that, I guess. I don't know. We'll see how it ends up being. And it might end up being that I use some oak for parts of the trailer deck and cottonwood for parts of it, just so there's additional strength where, you know, so maybe like the two outer pieces will be oak, so that the log arch can clamp through, or, you know, will bolt through the oak, and it'll just have additional strength. But we shall see. So you can't see it in the video, but you can see some of the leaves falling, and the storm did actually come in. Like I said, I got that painted to this point just in time. So that's where I ended up having to call it quits for the day on the trailer frame. And we tried to do some other tasks, and then just like I said, I decided I wanted to get some trenching dug, so I'm back here on the backhoe trying to get this, because I know I've got to get this done before I put the trailer frame for the spare room back in place. I obviously had to move that. Then I ended up actually trading that one out. So we have 3 frames. One we were given, 2 we paid $300 for a smaller one, and $500 for a bigger one. The spare room trailer is going on the larger of the 3 of them. And originally I'd pulled the 16-footer over here just thinking that was going to be good, but I decided not to use that one, because I didn't like having the 8 feet hanging off the back end without having the metal frame under it. So since this is going to be a water line, I wanted to make sure I'm getting at least 4 feet deep. And it was kind of a frustrating dig, just trying to figure out where I could safely put dirt, because there's blueberries off to the left, there's salmon berries, that's what this little green shrub here is to the right by my shoulder. And salmon berries are a native to Washington. They are a raspberry that is salmon colored when ripe, and it was really kind of surprising to try them the first time. I was expecting, you know, like a raspberry or blackberry flavor, and that was not the flavor at all. I don't know. It's like it's almost like a cross between an apricot and a raspberry. So it was a really interesting experience to try them. Another native that we've tried to transplant and see if we can't get more of is called thimbleberry, and that one's like a super ripe raspberry. So much so that supposedly it's not a commercial produce because you can't ship it anywhere. Like, you have an extremely small window where you can actually harvest it, and once you harvest it, it starts to spoil within a day. So we made some cherry thimbleberry syrup one year, and that was just amazing. But by the time, like, we picked the thimbleberries and put them in the fridge, and we found out, I mean, they were all soft and starting to definitely get overripe by the second day after we picked them, which is when I went and made the syrup. So it'll be interesting to see how things go if we can get them to grow in different places, because we only have one little spot on our property where they have grown naturally, but we're going to try and see if we can get them to grow some other places. So we're nearing here about the end of where I was able to get to with the backhoe today, because it started to smoke, and you can see the raindrops have gotten pretty big here. And you can actually see them in the video footage, but it turns out one of the hydraulic lines underneath the backhoe controls broke, so I've got to figure out how to get access to those and figure out which one it is and what we need to do. But I at least got the line laid and was about halfway done backfilling. The battery died at the moment, but I got about halfway done backfilling that and before it died. So anyway, that's where we're at for today. So as always, thank you for watching. God bless you and yours, and stay safe out there.